Hi, everybody. Let me hit that. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is 980 days. 980 days. Well, my phone is blowing up because of the indictment of President Trump. Um, wow. I have, I just have a thought about that because of everything that we've been through. And, this is 980 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss. Right there, Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas, the the Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico. Okay, and this live stream is going to be about Mexico. It's going to be about California. It's going to be about Trump, and of course, it's going to be about Find Richard Halliday and the 1,000 letters that we want help writing to the Inspector General. Maybe we can make it a dual letter, but to the Inspector General to inspect the investigation of Find Richard Halliday. And while he's at it, he needs to be inspecting, of course, this this very bad indictment of President Trump. And it's very clear that it's like everyone knows who's been watching how I feel about COVID, that I think it was a maneuver, it was a political maneuver um, to harm the or to control the election of 2020. I really believe that um, because we have just so many different evil maneuvers, asymmetric warfare tactics. You have to learn that term, asymmetric warfare tactics, are being used against us. The weaponization of our government is very real, very real. Do not doubt it for an instant. I don't doubt it for an instant. Otherwise, I wouldn't even say it, especially on a live stream, because it does burn some bridges, which hurts the search for Richard. But um, to say that our government has been weaponized, our agencies has been weaponized against us, um, is something that needs to happen so desperately for people to understand how much they've been lied to, how much they've been manipulated, how much they've been hoodwinked, how much they've been, I would say, hypnotized, with those squirrely things in the eyes. Um, and that it's very difficult to admit that your own government would do something like this against you. I was waiting for my mom today, and I saw a friend roll down the window, and he asked me how we were and everything, and I asked how he was and his father, and he says, my father, he says, don't take any medication because they're poisoning us. Those were his words. You can take that for what it is, but I think I think the word is getting out that our agencies and even our healthcare now um, is um, is being scrutinized. Is being scrutinized. Is not trusted. It's not being trusted. And I do want to say that my mother's heart was in bad shape, and the doctors here up the street did an amazing procedure on my mother, and I just said all kinds of blessings to them and gratefulness for that. So I want you to take that for what it is. But what I'm saying is that everything is being scrutinized today. That is the point that I'm trying to make, because there is so much infiltration of corruption in all areas of life that everything is being scrutinized, everything is being weighed, everybody has an opinion for everything today. And so but something came into my mind when Trump was indicted today. and it was an old lesson that that we made in homeschooling. And Robert, not Richard, but Robert is the narrator for the lesson, and I'm going to play it today because I think it's very, very important. Let's do that real quick. It's very important to understand what we're about to discuss today. So here it is. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. So what's happening here? Robert's going to explain it. This is the intro.
I'm sure that you have heard this song before, for it comes from an old TV show called The Lone Ranger. Did you know that this song was created long before the TV episode Lone Ranger? In fact, it was created for an old play called William Tell. Hello, welcome to the McGuffey's Online Tutor. Today's lesson is an introduction lesson that comes from the McGuffey's 5th Eclectic Reader, the Revised Edition, Lesson 67, William Tell. Who was William Tell? Well, for what we know, William Tell was a Swiss freedom fighter who was said to have liberated Switzerland from Austria in the 14th century. William Tell was also one of the best marksmen in the world. At the time, Austria was in power, and the country was looking to expand its borders. Austria had its eyes set on Switzerland. This is where the tale begins. Before I continue, I would like to read you a small poem written by P.G. Wodehouse dedicated to William Tell. The Swiss against their Austrian foes had near a soul to lead 'em, till Tell, as you've heard tell, arose, and guide them to freedom. Tell's tale we tell again, an act, for which pray no one scold us. This tale of Tell we tell in fact, as this tale was told us. Since this is an introduction lesson, I would like to cover two key moments in William Tell's tale. At the time, Austria's Habsburg bailiff was a man named Gessler. Not much is known about Gessler. About halfway into the tale, Gessler decides to abuse his power by placing his cap on a pole in the town center. Anyone who passed by the cap had to bow before it. Should you choose not to bow before the cap, you would be put into prison and severely punished. Now that is quite harsh. At the end of the tale, there is a significant moment. This one moment may be very familiar to you and to anyone who has ever read William Tell's tale before. One day, William Tell and his son decided to go into town. When they reached the town center, they saw Gessler's cap. Although William Tell knew the punishment for passing the cap without bowing before it, he walked past it with his son and ignored the cap. One of the guards stopped William Tell. To make a long story short, Gessler gave William Tell a chance to redeem himself by having him go back 100 paces, and use his crossbow skills to shoot an arrow through the center of an apple on his son's head. The 100-pace distance is amazing because the distance is almost the length of a football field. We all hope William Tell can hit the target, correct? Richard Kissling has dedicated a statue to William Tell's tale, and it can be found in Altdorf in Switzerland. So if you ever go to Switzerland, go check it out. If you want to know how it ends, join me in the next video lesson. This is the end of our lesson. Thanks for visiting McGuffeysOnlineTutor.com. Peace be with you. See you soon.
Okay, so oh man, everything is blowing up because of what's happening. And what is really happening that I think is very, very big, and I think they had no choice but to carry out this attack by indicting President Trump. Why do I say that? Because I was watching what's going on in Congress today, and at one point I almost fell out of my chair. It was so shocking. This administration, the Biden administration, the Democrat Party, they're like Gesslers. They put their hat on a pole and they said to everybody, you have to put on a mask. You have to get a Cobra strike. You have to vote a certain way. You have to let us continue with this sex grooming. And it is. You have to let us rewrite the meaning of words. You have to bow to this hat, this Democrat hat, this, and I don't even know if it's Democrat because there's a lot of Republicans that are bowing to it. This New World Order hat, or I would say foreign and domestic enemy hat. You have to do it. You have to rub our shoulders. You have to lockstep with this, with the DOD and the DOJ and the FBI, their corruption. That's what you have to do. You have to be corrupt and not do your duty. And this is why, with this hat on this pole, right, of this foreign and domestic enemy, people were afraid. And they bowed. And that's why in Fort Bliss, in El Paso, you have the Attorney USA for the state, at that time, Jaime Esparza. You have Jeff Downey in charge of the FBI there. You have, trying to remember all these names, Gregory McDonald. That's federal because now Jaime Esparza is federal. And I think it's Hicks. Hicks is now in the place that Jaime Esparza was in. And see, they looked at that hat and they bowed to that hat. They didn't do their duty. They did not reach out to us. They did not tell us what our rights are, how our rights have been violated, what sources or resources, programs that were available to us to help us find our missing soldier son, our distinguished honor graduate from basic training and AIT, the very first CONUS DES 1 missing soldier under the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. They didn't do that because they had bowed to this hat, you see, this foreign, now they were servicing a foreign and domestic enemy. And that's why, and the DOD, I'm talking about the 44 four-star generals. They all all have bowed to this hat. And from what I don't know, from what I see, the attacks on President Trump, I don't think he has bowed to the hat. And from what I saw today in Congress and what I've seen from so many Americans right now, they haven't bowed to the hat, or they're reneging on bowing to the hat. They're saying, whoa, I did not realize that hat was a foreign and domestic enemy. I thought it was a educated, benevolent civil servant that was trying to do the best for us. But now new evidence has come out, and I realize this was a foreign and domestic enemy attack on us. And I no longer will bow to the hat. And it's, it's not that easy because Gessler, the powers, this foreign and domestic power, they do still have power. And New York now has indicted President Trump to make an example out of him. He is like a William Tell. He wants the United States to be sovereign again. He wants the DOD back, right? I don't know if I want the DOD back. I want a defense. And I think that defense, we need to divide it up through the states and let the governors have oversight and have at least 50 governors. Thank you, clock, for tolling at the right time, because our military has become insane, absolutely insane. And you have seen, if you haven't seen, but you can go onto alternative media and you can see the hearings that are taking place yesterday. The call for the Secretary of Defense, the SecDef, Austin, to resign immediately, to be impeached. Absolutely, they need to be investigated and tried. I think Mealy also. I think 44 four-star generals and admirals have betrayed us. I think they have committed crimes against humanity. I think that they have committed treason at this point. They have committed treason. And this is the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. Because you have to add to all of that the withdrawal of Afghanistan. what happened in Benghazi, and of course, the response to find Richard Halliday, which has been more than what anyone understands because asymmetric warfare tactics. I'm not saying I believe, I know asymmetric warfare tactics and military operations have been used against Richard and us, Team Find Richard Halliday, to sabotage the search for our son, to cover up something I don't know. I have an idea. Of course, it's, the child sex trafficking and the child porn and all of that. But I think that they're so powerful in certain ways. They might have power, they don't have dominion. Okay. That's why I can come on this evening and I can have confidence that I don't have to cry tears for the loss of what is right and true and good in this world. God has a plan, and I think that we will all together stand up for what is right, and the more that we do it, the better it is, and the better it will be for President Trump and everybody else. What about the January 6th prisoners? What about all the other prisoners? What about those that were so bullied, so bullied, so retaliated against that they were driven to commit suicide? I remember talking to Elder Fernandez's family, and his mother told me they trained to suicide. And I knew exactly her English is not 100%, but it didn't have to be 100% because heart to heart, mom to mom, I knew exactly what she was saying. That the grooming and that the retaliation and that the heartlessness, the cold-bloodedness, when you don't want to bow to that hat, when you don't want to participate in Vanity Fair, then you get retaliated against and you get bullied and you get mentally abused. And I remember when the judge called us to let us know that he made reports to the CID and to the FBI that our son's file was leaked by CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa to Leilani Hart. I remember it very clearly. But not until recently I'm redoing the timeline, and I was going back to put a date into it, and I always thought in my mind that it was around February of 2021, but it was January of 2022. So January 2022 is when we received that phone call. I remember exactly where it was. It was a little snowy out. I was going into the hospital to be with my father, and I get this phone call in the vehicle, and I just sit there and I listen, and I really try not to react too much because absolutely we have been targeted for all kinds of operations, just not the one that counts, and that is to find Richard. And so when I was listening to him, I was thinking, is this another asymmetric warfare tactic? Is this another military operations being used against us? Are they trying to trap us? But he was very clear, and I knew what he was saying was right, that there were leaks. We knew there were leaks. We already had reported the leaks. He didn't know that we had already reported the leaks. We reported leaks. We didn't know who was leaking. And we knew that the leaks were coming out of the CID. And now, yesterday, I announced that there was a report to the El Paso Police Department. You see, another person that didn't want to bow to Gessler's red hat. And, um, there were complaints. Lalani Hart, she was bragging. She was bragging that she had control of the CID there on Fort Bliss. So you see, that's a big complaint. And when things are in one place, or they don't have a lot of oversight, it's pretty easy to manipulate your way into the control of it, if you're willing to go to those lengths. And that's why we need loads of CITs, right? And we're asking, that brings me to the point where we wrote Senator Cruz last night to ask for a army-wide training there at Fort Bliss, CID training exercise at Fort Bliss to find Richard. We also would like those letters, anybody to help us to send letters to Inspector General Horowitz to inspect the investigation of our son. And I have some other big breaking news, because you see, William Tell received help in order to win sovereignty back for Switzerland against Austria. And sometimes you need to find a foreign ally. And so I'm just wondering, I'm getting some messages, that I'll get some messages that that Mexico will start helping us to get to the bottom of where Richard is. And if that happens, and please pray tonight that that happens, this is the good word that I'm getting, that Mexico will start helping us find Richard Halliday. That they have felt that we have been, that our civil rights have been violated, that our government has betrayed their duty to Richard, a soldier, a U.S. Army soldier. And I feel that General McConville, General Garrett, absolutely General Garrett, General Mealy, Secretary Austin, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, Brigadier General David Stewart, Lieutenant General Donna Martin, have all, and when you have such a small group, even though it's a very large group, 44 are four-star generals, and the rest are flag officers, but when you have a small group, they're very, very close. They know what's going on. And their silence is deafening. And the military and the media silence is deafening. And the media has betrayed us also. Betrayed Richard. Betrayed, when you betray a missing soldier and you participate and believe, you don't get to the bottom of things the way you should as an investigative journalist, to create a story. When you just, bow to the hat, the DOD hat, when you bow to it and just report as they want you to report, it's you're failing in your job, and you've betrayed not just Richard Halliday, but every service member that depends on layers of oversight. And yesterday, remember this Air Force general? Let me scroll up, because this is why I believe they went absolutely insane today to indict President Trump, because it's all coming out, and they committed. Please understand this. Just the tip of the iceberg. They committed crimes against humanity. They've committed treason. And treason is punishable by the death penalty. And people have had so many loved ones die, commit suicide, be raped, go missing, get chopped up, get sick, lose limbs. I know Des, he was dealt with horribly, and I just want to for Camney to know that I'm thinking and praying for him all the time. We need to get accountability for our service members, and for Veronica Escobar, for the media, because don't even make excuses for Veronica Escobar. These are criminals, y'all. Absolute criminals. And you might like them. But you see, servicing foreign and domestic enemies, and my Oma, if she was alive, she could tell you this after World War II. Those that bowed to the Dritte Reich hat, right? Those that looked the other way, or participated in the genocide. And in these last few years, we have a genocide. They're talking about it. We're having a slavery. Okay? We're having a slavery. We have human trafficking. Not only do we have human trafficking, but then we have child sex trafficking. Not only do we have child sex trafficking, but we have child pornography that's making huge money. So when you get that evil, then you're also trafficking drugs, all kinds of illegal substances. And you're also trafficking monies. Whatever is the monies. Okay? And then with those monies, you need security. And then, of course, you have weapons trafficking. So when you see, oh, there's weapons trafficking. Oh, there's these dogs that sniff money. And, oh, we have human trafficking. Oh, we have child sacrifice. We have this terrible stuff on child pornography. You know, they're all part of the same criminal syndicate. Where there is no justice, there is just a criminal syndicate, a band of robbers. And they rob you of your mental sanity. They rob you of your children. They rob you of your family. They rob you of your happiness. They rob you of your lives. They rob you in any way, your inheritance. They all rob you with your inheritance. And I think the biggest way, the biggest rob is your labor. Because think of all those small businesses that have been destroyed totally. And it's so much work to start a little small business. You know, you put everything into it. All of your passion goes into your small business. And it is very, it's just like these farmers that had to cull their cattle because of them getting sick and poisoned with toxins, and they had to cull all their work. Um, it's just it's such uh, a mental loss, and I remember when I was young, 20 years old. I was engaged to be married, and he was 21, and he was a farmer, and he had an aneurysm. I got called, and they said, Pat, you have to come to the hospital right away. Alan's sick. I said, really? Okay. And I told my boss, and I said, I need to go to the hospital. Alan's sick. And I get in the car, and I get there, and everyone's there in the waiting room. This was a very close family, big family. They're all there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And this doctor, I'll never forget him. He came up to me and he said, you're Patricia? And I said, yes. And he goes, Alan has had an aneurysm and he's brain dead. And we're deciding on whether whether to pull the plug or not. He's on life support. What? uh, Talk about a bomb. And I go in there with him. 14 hours I sat beside him. And I just prayed. God, take away everything. My new bedroom set that I just bought. I remember praying that. Take away everything. Take away everything. Everything. Just give me back Alan. Let him live. I mean, you have to understand, 21 years old, loved farming. Loved it. Farmed with his dad. He was, when you're a farmer and you have a son that wants to actually farm, it's such a blessing because it's hard work, right? And Alan loved it, and for his father's sake, right? This was my prayer, and the point that I'm making, telling that story, is that everything we cannot see, we cannot hear, we cannot even perceive the absolute glories and blessings and the magnitude of wonderful things that God has in store for us, for those who love him. And I didn't understand what was happening at the time. I did not. And I still don't fully understand. And I don't understand fully what's happening now in Richard's case. And I don't understand fully what's happening with President Trump's case. But with age, you get a perspective that you don't have when you're young. And unless you're just super blessed, and with President Trump, absolutely. They are so desperate. These foreign and domestic enemies are so desperate to keep power. Okay? They are so desperate to keep power. And it is not about the Democrats. I don't think so at all. I think the Democrats have been infiltrated so much. They are a tool. But the Republicans have been infiltrated also. And our DOD definitely has. And our FBI has. And our Department of Justice has. And I think it's a wake-up call. I think it's a cover up. I think there's multitudes of reasons. Um, and I think it's going to, well, time doesn't stop. And it's going to call us to do the right thing. It's going to call us to do the right thing. And it's our duty to do the right thing, whether we understand it or not. Um, and I got news about California. You see, and I reported this the other day, that one of the numbers, and I wrote it down here, I checked. So the the judge made his complaints to the CID and the FBI in January of 2022. We started getting vile and vulgar phone messages in February of 2022. They went on. I have them even at May 23rd. Now I haven't checked them all, but even at May 23rd, 2022, because it was about around that time. So we're talking about months of enduring vile and vulgar phone messages. Okay? Um, this is what this is what Jeff Downey has allowed. This is what Jaime Esparza has allowed. This is what General Mealy, Secretary of Defense Austin, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, Major General Donna Martin, General Garrett, Xavier Garrett, what they have allowed. They have put us in harm's way. Because these were threats. We even had a phone call that was threatening. I played it. Remember how I played that online? We have had our lives turned upside down for something that the CID and the FBI knew already on the 22nd of July, 2020. And absolutely, they work together. The state, the federal, and the Department of Defense. They're in Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. Absolutely, they work together. The reports went to the FBI. Absolutely. Jeff Downey knew what was going on, and he has the duty to reach out to us, along with the Attorney General, along with the AUSAs, and they didn't. They didn't. And the Army didn't even task them to do anything because there was no operational order. And without an operational order, you can't task. And so here we were getting these vile and vulgar messages. And around May 2022, so not that long ago, we researched how to trace burner phones. How to trace these phones that that otherwise can't be traced. Because we knew that if the NSA could do it, if the CIA could do it, if the FBI could do it, then somebody in this world is clever enough to teach us how to do it. And so we did. We found a way. We followed the instructions, and voila, we got the addresses. We turned in the addresses to the to the CID and to the FBI and to all of those government officials. It's been crickets. And one of those addresses led to Santa Clara, California. And I was like, well, I'm going to announce Santa Clara, California just about a month ago, right? Or just a few weeks ago. I told you about, okay, I'll tell you one of them, Santa Clara, California, thinking that that was the least scariest one. Thinking that that was the safest, that must be just somebody in the unit that was up to no good. And because the things that were said, y'all, they are up to no good. Let me tell you, they are up to no good, and they are vile and vulgar. And they have cold-blooded black tar running through their veins. It's bad. It's bad. Or ice water. Ice water is better. Cold blood, ice water running through their veins. My mom is German, so I always get the analogies messed up a bit, which has always been a joke in our family because we've always gotten our analogies messed up a bit. Anyway, and for those who speak our dual language, you understand dual culture, you understand triple culture, because of course we're probably we're multicultural in our family. So yeah, that's what I thought about this Santa Clara. But then I heard this. Oh, sorry. I wanted to play this general. And then I'll play what I saw
records
today.
unlawfully compromised by the United States Air Force.
Thank you for that question. So we did have a PII breach, 11 individuals overall. Their data was released.
Well, you say breach. When I hear breach, what I hear is that like someone hacked or broke in or got the information. You gave this information.
Yes, we did. No,
right.
the Air
So
Force
it wasn't a breach. It was an illegal release.
It was yes. It was.
Okay, so I want to make this clear. Tavita Nusa did not breach the CID database. He willingly released it to Leilani Hart. Okay, there was no breach. This was a illegal, willing release. Okay?
Was.
Right.
You're right. We take full responsibility
How many?
for that. 11.
11.
Yes.
And all
They take full responsibility. That's good. That's good news.
Republicans, right?
I don't know the answer to that. I know some of them were, but I think that
But if I represent you, that it's all or almost all Republicans.
almost all Republicans. That's correct. Yes.
And this information was given to the due diligence entity, right?
There was an entity. Yes, it was.
Yeah, and it's an
all-
opposition research entity that gets hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the Democratic Senatorial campaign apparatus, right?
I don't know that much about due diligence, but I know that we released the information inappropriately.
Why did you do that?
It was an error. We did an investigation as soon as we found out. We notified all of the members in which their data was released. We have put in place multiple layers. Checks and balances. We did a retraining.
Who's been fired for doing this?
We have taken the appropriate action.
Okay. Who's been fired?
And they've taken the appropriate action.
We've taken the appropriate action.
It's a fascinating answer, just not to my question. Who's been fired?
I can't answer that.
Has a single person been fired?
I do not know the answer to that.
Shouldn't you, though? I mean, here we are having recruiting challenges. You guys are releasing personnel information of predominantly Republicans to a Democrat opposition research firm. You run personnel for the United States Air Force, and you can't tell me whether anyone has been fired for this unauthorized release?
Congressman, I can tell you that we have taken the appropriate action.
Well, but you deem it appropriate. But what if we don't? because we have civilian control of the military. And we may have to change our laws to hold people accountable. And pardon me for not trusting your vague reference to the layers that you've put on. But, Mr. Chairman, I request that this committee get specific answers for what the accountability regime was for this unlawful action by the United States Air Force, and that we not take as an article of faith the representation that they think they've taken the appropriate action. They've taken the illegal, inappropriate action to compromise these records, and I think we should.
Right. Okay, so that happened yesterday. This video here is Mr. Mills putting forth the for the SecDef impeachment. Sorry, to impeach the SecDef. And then this is a video that I was looking for yesterday that I wanted to play for you.
Oh, of course you can.
You're amazing.
I'm glad there's so many people out on the streets. It's good.
Mr. Can I ask you a quick question? Just a quick question. Just imagine the situation that we won this cabal, we won them.
Yes.
And we take them to court. What, in your opinion, what would be the adequate punishment for them? Life in prison, electric chair, hanging?
I would say the people who are actual central planners, this is what I would propose. And I've been against capital punishment all my life. If, after due process, they are found guilty, death sentence, no witnesses, bodies incinerated, and remains distributed anonymously. No burial plot. And no witnesses. I would say anyone else at the next level down, life imprisonment. So I would say politicians at least. Even just what they call the lobby fodder, the people who went through and voted your rights away. Life imprisonment. The doctors who ordered the injections, life imprisonment at least. And even the people down below that, they're going to have to do some kind of penance. They knew it was wrong. Ventilating people who can breathe for themselves. Come on, folks. You don't need to be an intensive care expert to know that that was at least a questionable thing to do. And when you notice everybody dying, did it not occur to you, you might want to run a different experiment? So, yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answer.
Like I said, previously I was against capital punishment. So this shows the magnitude of the offences against humanity. That's why they cannot be allowed to roam free and do it again. Right? That's the point.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
That was so shocking yesterday, and I wanted to show it to you. Now, all those other videos, all the other pictures that are put onto that video, I don't know anything about them. I know about them, but I don't, I believe we need to have a civil government, a judge to judge this, an indictment, and it all needs to be worked out. But to see him say what he did was absolutely shocking. And because he's a huge leader in England, medical, he was CEO. Oh, please. I just lost his name. But for him to call for the death penalty, it's exactly how I've been feeling this last month, saying we really need to put the death penalty back on the table and talk about it seriously, because we have such egregious crimes going on right now. Egregious. And our leaders, responding with no urgency or bowing to the hat, right? And covering up and using or even worse, weaponizing their position against anybody that refused to bow to the hat or refuses to bow to this evil. So, take that for what I just thought it was very important for you to see what is developing right now. And then here's, I think, let me see which, There's so much. Make sure I get this one right here. Okay, the last seconds are just will blow you away. But let's listen to it. I mean, they blew me away.
The IRS about that unlikely coincidence.
The Secretary of Treasury admitted only happens, so far as she knows, when someone is under investigation for fraud.
Oof. Republicans are demanding answers from Joe Biden on the weaponization of government.
Oh.
There's a damning new
This is
controversy.
not it. Sorry. Mr. Bishop. It must be up here. I have to play this, Matt Gates. Because it's so, so important. Is this it?
They abuse the paper in profane language and demand that it immediately pull the offending story from its website, while the White House publicly threatens not democratic.
No! It's not the one I wanted to show. Did I not put it on here? Let me go to find Richard Halliday, because I know I have it. And it's so important for the point that I want to make. Maybe I didn't. Where is it? Are they not letting it play? Hold on. I don't want you to see where I'm going.
In federal court lacks a reasonable legal and fact law, but you also
Okay, here
have
it is.
broad.
I found it. Yay!
General's complaint that you're litigating in federal court lacks a.
It was revealed that congressional staffers had been flying out to Silicon Valley to privately meet with the social media platforms since 2017, bringing proposed legislation with them to threaten them with adverse legal counsels if censorship didn't improve. And what Mr. Chan, the government's FBI agent, testified is that this was effective. They experienced the pressure. It made a huge difference. It's censored.
How many FBI agents did Twitter say interacted with Twitter?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Numbers in the 80s, isn't it? 80-something?
Certainly the Foreign Influence Task Force includes about 78 to 80 agents, I believe. And then there's another 8 in San Francisco office alone that are involved in these activities. So many.
I know your written testimony contains hundreds of pages of these allegations. That's interesting. Mr. Seligman, you referred to yourself as a professor. Now, you're a fellow at the Constitutional Law Center at Stanford Law School. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
And you're not on the faculty at Stanford Law School.
That's right, and I didn't claim otherwise.
Okay. You graduated from law school in 2011. Your LinkedIn resume suggests you haven't had any job longer than about 3.5 years since then. I looked on Lexis. I couldn't find any case in which you've served as counsel of record in which you finally prevailed. Can you name one?
I've worked on legal teams that have prevailed at every level of the federal judiciary, including the Supreme Court.
Can you name a
of the United
case?
States. Yeah, sure. So Tyson v. Buafecchio, which is a case at the Supreme Court.
Tyson versus what?
Buafecchio was a case. It was a case about Rule 23 class certification.
Okay.
We prevailed.
Okay. What reason is it? So you're not a professor. Do you claim expertise in the First Amendment? Do you claim to be a First Amendment expert?
I am an expert in constitutional law, including the First Amendment. Yes.
Interestingly enough, on your website, on the Stanford website, it says you're an expert in election law, but you also have broad research interest in constitutional law. It doesn't even mention First Amendment.
As many legal scholars do, I have a diverse set of interests.
Mr. Sauer, wouldn't it be squarely in conflict with the First Amendment to censor Mr. Seligman's opinion just because it conflicts with the official narrative as represented by the district court judge's opinion?
Absolutely. The First Amendment protects everybody.
Can you take in the last few seconds I've got and talk briefly about how the Election Integrity Project and the Virality Project have moved to censoring whole narratives.
Yes, there's. I see that time is almost up, but there is a concerted effort that we see in the evidence to censor narrative at a narrative level, where a narrative can contain hundreds of thousands of social media posts, and that is operated out of Stanford University.
Social media platform says the.
Okay, so he said Stanford University. So I looked it up. I looked up where Stanford University is. Here it is. It is in Santa Clara Valley, where the bullying led to. And there's more. But I wanted to just, the last few seconds, he's talking Silicon Valley, Stanford University, there in Santa Clara. They are controlling narratives. Now, is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence? This is one more layer of crime. In this case, find Richard Halliday. And we thank God that there's a possibility that the Mexican government will now help find Richard Halliday. Because our government has been weaponized against us to find our distinguished honor graduate soldier from basic training and AIT. Our government, our DOD, our DOJ, our FBI have bowed to the hat of some foreign entity and have weaponized themselves against the very first CONUS Death One missing soldier under the Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. He's the first one under that. So they're kicking the memory of Vanessa Guillen. You know that. They're smearing the memory of Vanessa Guillen. They're laughing at it. That's how cold-blooded these people are. And they made Richard the first one and then weaponized themselves against him. And then they gave Sean Bernabe another star. Then they gave Donna Martin another star. Now, does that mean I don't like them? This is not a personality thing. This is about them being negligent in their duty. This is about them rubbing shoulders with the enemy. This is about them committing treason, committing all sorts of crimes, the worst type of crimes. Whether I like them or not, this is what they've done. They've betrayed us. They've been using our trillions of dollars of monies and goodwill and prayers. They've been colluding with the FBI and the Department of State, the Department of Justice. And what? Silicon Valley now? To sabotage the search for Richard. This is a kick in the teeth to all service members who are constantly told and promised by their recruiters that they are joining a family. That's what Nicole Graham told me that her daughter told her. Mom, they told me I am joining a family, that they are going to care for us because, her father had just died. She was joining the military to help take care of her mother. She was so excited, just like Richard. And they betrayed her. They betrayed the American people. And then they've groomed and trained our troops. Some of them are hypnotized. Some of them just get retaliated. A lot of them kill themselves. They can't stand the rapes. They can't stand the sex cults. They can't stand the marketplace for illegal drugs right there in their living area. And then the barracks are co-ed. Co-ed. Whose bright idea was that to set up every female? It's like nine males to one female. Minimum. If you join the Marines, it's wow, watch out. You'll be told get raped or take body count. And Richard couldn't stand it when children were starting to get hurt. I just can't even imagine. The betrayal is so big, so extensive. It goes beyond any personality, because we're talking about the lives of thousands and thousands and thousands who have been destroyed over decades. Our whole country has been changed because of it. And my Oma told me that too during World War II. The whole purpose of World War I and World War II was to kill the good ones. To kill the good ones. Because they wanted to change the whole focus, the whole character of the country. And without World War I, there could have been no World War II. Meaning, the Dritte Reich wouldn't have gotten the support. But because of what happened in World War I, so many dying, the whole character of the country changing, the pornography pouring in, pornography just poured in after World War I. They had the Weimar Republic, which was massive inflation, hyperinflation, where you had to take a wheelbarrow full of money just to buy a loaf of bread. At the end, they were using it as wallpaper because it wasn't good for anything. So the whole character of the country had changed, and then you had this man come in and bring in a dependable currency, put the economy back together, focused on the health of the people, took the thugs off the streets. That was the Hitler Youth. Everybody was so happy because they could walk down the street without getting raped. That's why Hitler Youth had so much support, because before then they were just thugs. And then when he did crazy things, people already had bowed to the Dritte Reich hat, and they just felt like they couldn't say anything. And this is what's going on right now. So I would say, with the 1,000-day letter to I.G. Horowitz about Richard Halliday, include one in there for President Trump. Include lots of prayers too. And we are organizing a prayer vigil for the 1,000th day. I'll let you know more and more as soon as I get more and more information. And I'll let you know more and more about Mexico and their involvement in find Richard Halliday. Please pray that that all comes to be, and we get answers, because we have it. We just need accountability. We need accountability, and we need accountability, and we need those that say no to the foreign enemies and the domestic enemies. That they say, no, we want to be these United States. We want to be a sovereign country. Here is, oh yeah, that was so good. Here's another thing that happened.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy signs bill ending the COVID-19 emergency declaration.
He's going to learn to end up beside it, and so congratulations. Be proud of you.
Yes. So that is, I think that calls for some champagne. We need to pop a bottle of champagne on that one. And then really think about writing, well, not even think about it, do it. Make some phone calls. Write some letters. Don't be afraid. We need to stick up for President Trump, because don't forget what he was saying. They come after him only because they want to come after us. And I absolutely, I've witnessed that. I've endured that with Fine Richard Halliday. Because if they really loved us, number one, they would have done everything in their power to find Richard. The press, the task force Find Richard Halliday. There would have been punishment for all the smears, because you never smear after 3 beheadings. A soldier after 3 beheadings, when they go missing, and then you smear. You allow the smears of a missing soldier after 3 beheadings, after Vanessa Guillen, after Enrique Roman Martinez, after Austin Hawk, after Caleb Smithers, after Elder Fernandez, after so many others. So many others. And they allowed smearing. They did not flag the unit. They let everyone go different ways, or they assigned everyone different ways. It was just not done the Army way, not done the righteous way. So our rights definitely have been violated. We are citing the rights. We are, we don't have a big staff. I don't have a cameraman. I'm doing everything here myself. We're looking for t-shirt designs. Please submit one if you have a good idea. And it needs to say, "Where is Richard?" And we're going to do that really quick, because, of course, we already submitted approval for the 1000th day, where we want to have the prayer vigil. And I'll let you know more. But we want to have those t-shirts by then. And of course, we're getting the signs and getting everything ready to have that. It's gonna come together, and it has to come together pretty quick, because of it's coming so fast. And I don't want it to come. I want to find Richard. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Let me turn this off. Turn that off. Okay. Also, don't forget that I will, I want to let you know that we did get a positive response from the almost totally owned veterans business group that we're offering $50,000 for credible information for finding Richard. That amount had different requirements, and it had an expiration date, and now they're we haven't gotten our paper yet, but we got positive response that will keep on going. So we have the $150,000 for credible information leading to finding Richard. And also, I said I will paint an oil painting. Maybe I need to get started on that to inspire people to talk to, so we can find Richard. But also, our service members need this. Our service members need this. Can you imagine finding out the level of betrayal that has been committed against the United States, but against them? Against them. And I know that it has been horrifying for us. On top of not knowing where Richard is and all the horrible things that we've been told that was done to him, and the presumption that he's dead, the absolute grieving on so many different levels, and trying to keep it together to know that this is all for a purpose. This is all for a purpose. Like Joseph, can you imagine the betrayal with Joseph, the story in the Bible where his brothers betrayed him and sold him into slavery, wanted to kill him. They wanted to kill him. They sold him into slavery. It's like our children right now. Where are the children? Right? That was one of the videos. Go to Telegram. I posted it up. Where are the children? We are paying to store a border wall. Texas wanted to buy border wall from us, and they said no, because Texas wanted to build that border wall. But we're paying storage fees for it. And I bet those storage fees are huge. So this is why all of these reasons, the border issue, the 20,000 unaccounted for children, the Find Richard Halliday, the censoring, the weaponization of our government to the point of treason, to the point of not only tampering with witnesses and impeding an investigation like in our case, but also tampering with an election. An election, the rights of every one of us. They were tampering with the rights of every American citizen that has the right to vote. And this is where these class action lawsuits can really come in, because when we found out that the notary notarized those complaints by Leilani Hart with the help of Tavita Nusa, that's what we believe, to get it through the CID, to get it through the FBI, that it took place on the 22nd of July, 2020, the day before Richard went missing, that the FBI had this information, that the CID had this information. And we believe, because we were told, that they used these leaked files to go through with a fine-tooth comb and get information out and put it in. That included Richard's file, to put it in to this complaint about child abuse. Let's just call it that. It's much worse, but let's just call it that. And that they already had it before Richard ever went missing. They already had everything. And this is where the CID, the FBI, the DOD, the Department of Justice there, that includes Jaime Esparza, that includes Jeff Downey, that includes Hicks, that includes Gregory McDonald, trying to learn all these names. I should know them. I should know them like the back of my hand, but because they never introduced themselves to us, because they couldn't be bothered, they stayed in their air-conditioned offices, and they didn't want to pick up the phone and say, "Oh my goodness, Mrs. Halliday, Mr. Halliday, I'm so sorry. This is what's available to you. This is what's available to you to help find your son." Okay, a soldier in the United States Army. Yeah, uh, this is, and then also Veronica Escobar, who we haven't heard from since 2020. She can't even acknowledge our inquiries. We have to go to a foreign, well, we didn't go to the foreign country. The foreign country we heard is reaching out to us. Mexico is reaching out to us because they're disgusted on what is going on in the United States government. Wow. Wow. And then that makes you cry. Because I remember a time, I'm not that old, y'all. This has happened so quickly to the United States. And yet over decades, it drips, 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 and you don't even notice it, and then all of a sudden the pipe busts. Okay. I'm going to turn this down. Thank you, James, for coming on. Amelia and especially Austin were torn to shreds yesterday. Yes, and exactly. Thank you. But they even said they did a good job in Afghanistan. I know. It was so, they looked so bad. And that's why I think at 1 o'clock in the morning, they were like, you better indict Trump because we have to change the news narrative. We have to change the headlines to indict Trump because not on Mealy and not on SecDef Austin, who betrayed, who are treasonous, who committed crimes against humanity, who have engaged in genocide, in modern day slavery. I mean, this is what is being said. This is not me. This is what, I mean, okay, I'm not a judge. I'm not the attorney general. I'm not the inspector general. But this is what is being said. This is all over the place yesterday. And wow. And you even have, James, do you remember the name of this medical doctor, scientist that's calling now for the death penalty? That I have to go find his name. It just escaped me. Danielle, thank you so much. Where can we purchase the shirts? I would love to purchase one. Thank you so much, Danielle. And please write letters to the IG. That's super important. And I would definitely add one for President Trump because whatever you feel, you need to set that aside. This is absolutely absurd, insane, and wrong. And we cannot bow to this hat. Okay? We cannot bow to a Ginsler. We need to be William Tells. We need to be William Tells, and we need to have a good aim. And that's been my problem because I'm just a mom, and I don't know who is responsible, right? So now, learning after 980 days, I'm starting to learn who it needs to be held accountable. And so have a good, and we need to be William Tells. We absolutely do. Freedom fighters and in the best way, safest way. Look, he had to prove his stand, win the battle by his skill for peace and safety. That's amazing. Yeah, 5 years. I think his last name begins with a Y. It's coming back to me, but okay. Donna, thank you. Thank you for coming on. And I hope all of you enjoyed Robert's presentation of William Tell because you have to really think about what Switzerland had to do to fight for because it's a beautiful country. Oh my gosh, I love Switzerland so much. And they're going to have to fight now again. And what do I mean by fight? I mean an ideological fight. And the position that I come from is a Trinitarian position. And why do I maintain the Trinity as my position in life? And that's because the Trinity is the one and the many. It's the only thing that gives you freedom. Go to the Council of Chalcedon. Go to the Nicene Creed. The Nicene Creed, the Apostles' Creed, the Athanasius Creed. It's all about the Trinity. Why? Because the one, Richard, is just as important as the many. And the many is just as important as Richard. It's a philosophical debate that can only be answered with the Trinity. And it's the most important debate because it's the difference between having anarchy and a functioning society with freedom, or you can have this tyranny, totalitarianism, if you don't have the Trinity. If the one is the most important and can rule over this one world government or whatever and doesn't take into consideration any of us, then we have totalitarianism, and they can make us do whatever, bow to every hat they want us to bow to. And so I maintain the Trinity for freedom, for a functioning society in freedom that likes the Medal of Honor ethos. That means the Good Samaritan, that we should help each other out. We should help the weak. We should help the big, burly, strong person. We should act together, but we should also act individually. And that is only answered in the Trinity. And so read the Athanasius Creed, read the Council of Chalcedon, read the Nicene Creed, and that's why I maintain this stance. So President Trump is super important. This whole thing is super important because it affects us all. The same thing with Richard. Our service members need us to be victorious in finding Richard. They need to know that we have their back, that we care about them. Every one of them. The many, and also for Richard. It's very important for the health of our country forward. And so that's why I maintain that stand. And I'm very proud to say it. And so when you see, and you'll see it all over the place right now, you'll see it all over the place since after 1776. The first thing after that War of Independence, War for Independence, was the attack. You know, the number one casualty were those amazing chaplains. Those amazing chaplains that preached the Trinity, y'all. And they were the number one casualties of 1776. And in 1800, they got rid of the Trinity at Harvard University. Go look it up. And in 1804, they got rid of Christ. They got rid of Christ as God. They took the divinity away from Christ. And so that's very quick. And so we have to get back to the Trinity. It's always been attacked, and that's why the Nicene Creed, the Apostles' Creed, the Athanasian Creed. If you want to know why I want to say those every week when I go to church, if I do the Book of Common Prayer, I should say them every day. I do the Magnificat in the evening. It's a great book. The Book of Common Prayer is a great book. So that's my stand, and everyone knows it. everyone, I'm not going to lie to anybody. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. God bless you. And I care about everybody, and also Richard. And so have a great night, great sleep. Easter is coming soon. I hope you're prepared, because in all of this, God commands us to celebrate. He commands us to celebrate. So, yeah. And I know sometimes it's super hard. But, yeah. Easter is a great time to celebrate. So I hope you're prepared. Thank you so much. God bless you. And, yeah, it's the overcoming of death. We got to celebrate, y'all. We can't forget. He wants us to remember. He wants us to remember, and that makes us strong. So God bless you. Thank you.